Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
So with us right now is power couple Camila Sáenz and Owen Liu to talk about their startup, TwoTemmie. Camila, Owen, welcome to the show. So first question, this is for Camila. What brought you to Taiwan?
Okay, so first of all, I came to Taiwan because of a Taiwanese scholarship. I got to study my bachelor's degree almost 6 years ago. So that was the main reason I ended up here. I'm originally from Guatemala, and after I graduated from high school, my mom wanted me to travel and to see the world and to choose in which country I wanted to study. So I wanted to study in France before, then I moved to China, then I met someone that talked to me about the scholarships in Taiwan, and that's how I ended up here studying journalism and mass communication. Then I did a master's degree in business, so like an MBA, and I'm currently doing a PhD in business as well, business management.
Wow. Also, I'm interested with Owen's background. I also did a little bit of like digging on social media, but I guess our fans, our audience would like to know more about you.
Well, my name's Owen. My Chinese name is Yu Xinchen. I was born and raised in Taiwan, but I moved to Canada when I was 15. Then I studied and I worked there for 15 years. I just came back to Taiwan like 2 years ago.
Owen, if I may ask, this is not in the approved questions, but I've read that in one of your interviews you talk a lot about the importance of being a dual, knowing a lot of languages, basically more than one language. Could you briefly tell our audience why is it important for a Taiwanese to know more languages than one?
Yeah, I think for not just for Taiwanese, but for everybody, if you can speak more than one language, your horizon broaden, right? Like when you speak a different language, you get to think in a different mindset. That's why we've been talking a lot about the global mindset. So I think language is just a tool for you to open up your world. So that's why it's very important to have more than one languages.
Let's talk about TwoTemmie. What is TwoTemmie all about, and what are your specific roles for this company?
Okay, so actually TUTEEMI is actually pronounced TUTEEMI.
Thank you.
Because it comes from the word tutee. You know, like a mentor has a mentee, and a tutor has a tutee.
Okay.
So tutee means like the student of a tutor.
Okay.
So TUTEEMI comes from the idea of trying to connect foreign tutors with Taiwanese students in a more efficient way. Because I was a tutor myself for about 5 years in Taiwan, teaching Spanish and English. And then I realized that there's this huge gap between Taiwanese families that wanted a tutor for their kids. They didn't really know where to find one, maybe a qualified one that had some background teaching. And we just thought we could do it better and easier.
Okay, so I know that you.
Idea.
Sure. I know that you're very particular about this question. Last time you asked like another couple who's running their own startup, and this is not to put you on the spot, but how do you I call you guys a power couple because most of the time you need to be, you're basically doing it like on different routes, but you tend to bring the company up and forward. What's the secret of like running a company as a couple? Do you, for example, bring work at home? Or is it possible to avoid this topic when you're at home?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
We're still constantly learning. I think it's definitely a big challenge. And because we've been doing this for a year and a half-ish, we can see the mistakes we've done before, and then we're trying to improve them. Like, let's say we try not to talk about work during the weekends, but as you can tell, today's Saturday, and we're still having an interview about work, right? So we need to be flexible about it. But yeah.
It's definitely not easy. Like Camila was saying, we're still learning. I think one of the biggest way to be better at couple working together is the expectation. As long as we set expectation right off the bat, saying like, this is what you're gonna be doing, this is what I'm gonna be doing, so we both like meet the expectation, and it's quite hard. We still overstep our boundary quite like there and here, but we're learning. So.
Okay.
And another thing is patience. You have a lot of patience.
Okay. So TwoTemmie, right? TwoTemmie. Okay, TwoTemmie. TwoTemmie is basically trying to match foreigners and Taiwanese learners of foreign language. So do you think that this has been like, there's a specific niche market that needs to be addressed by TwoTemmie, or do you guys think there is a competition that you're trying to cut, and in what way are you trying to cut this competition?
I think like in Taiwan, language learning is very based on tests. You know, like, oh, you need to like do an exam, you have to have a high score, and that's how it usually works. I would say like around Asia, not only Taiwan, right? But the problem with that is like most students, the problem like that they face with this is that they're so focused memorizing and passing exams that they forget the main reason of learning a language, which is communication. So we've realized that a lot of Taiwanese, even though that they've learned English for so many years, they still have trouble when they communicate and when they speak. So our tutors, what they focus on are just speaking skills. So let's say if a family comes to us and they say like, oh, they want a tutor to help with their TOEFL scores or like SATs or things, like we would not really accept them because we believe that languages are a tool to be able to communicate, not to pass exams. And that's something very different in Taiwan, like that area, I would say.
And then I guess for me that I grew up in Taiwan, so I went through the educational system and all the cram school, bushiban in Taiwan, and I see that we, as a kid, we didn't really have, well, as a parents, we didn't really have that much options when it comes to learning a language. There's definitely a lot of competition, but what we're focusing on is completely different from what other people are thinking. A lot of people say there's a bigger pie when it comes to test prep, but we are only looking for the speaking wise, which is a very small pie. But we're passionate about this. Like, this is the way to change the future generation. So that's why we're in this so-called niche.
I guess you're also echoing what the government is trying to do, which is to move away from Taiwan as just a good test takers in terms of language, because as you know, a lot of like Taiwanese would love to go abroad to study further, and they would always ace the language exams like the English TOEFL exams. But what Taiwan is, at least the current government is trying to eye into, is that Taiwan should move into expressing themselves in a foreign language. This is why the vision for the 2030 is to make English as a second language. And before we reach that, we are expecting that a lot of TV shows are going to be in English, radio programs in English, and more content are also going to be in English. And I think the niche market that you're trying to get into is to further this government plan of making English language, or maybe other foreign languages, as I've seen in your website, something that people could express themselves into rather than ace exams of these languages. So this episode is also about knowing some backgrounds on registering a company, and I'm sure, Camila, maybe you could share to our audience some of the difficulties in starting a company technically. Did you have a problem, or did Owen help you with this?
I would say like it wouldn't be possible without Owen, because as a foreigner, it's actually really hard in the very beginning, before registering the company, we were visiting a lot of different lawyers, a lot of different accountants, and every time I showed up, the price would go up 7 times, right? And I was like, why is this happening? So maybe Owen, you should go by yourself, right? And then every time that Owen went by himself, then the price was like very affordable. So there were a lot of, how would you say that? Barriers, yeah, as a foreigner. So everything went smoother and then just a lot faster because Owen is Taiwanese.
I think even for me as a Taiwanese, that sometimes it's kind of hard for me as well, because all the official lingo is very, very like structured in a governmental way, like the official writing. Sometimes I even struggle, like as a native speaker. I'm like, wow, what do they actually mean for this line, you know? So it's impossible to think as a foreigner to do a business in Taiwan. How difficult would that be? But I'm sure Taiwan, especially Taipei, and they're doing something to make it more encouraging for foreigners to stay in Taiwan. And thanks to you that you've been writing a book to help a lot of startups to start their business in Taiwan. So it's definitely a lot of room to improve. But as for sure, like if we're not doing this together, I can see Camila is gonna struggle a lot. Yeah.
Okay, and this is why we always, this is also the reason why we are expanding the coverage of the book from merely a book into a YouTube channel, also for the government to at least peek in through the lives of the foreigners who are starting a business. And for you guys, you're basically helping the government reach their goal of, you know, making Taiwan and having English as a secondary language, and they should listen to you guys for what the challenges you face on a regular basis. Camila, my question is, how is Taiwan different from Guatemala? You can mention it in a good or bad way, and basically, how can we improve here in Taiwan, for example, or even in Guatemala? Is it tough?
I think Guatemala has every aspect to be improvement, yeah. I always describe Taiwan as a utopia, you know, where everything is perfect. I think like coming from Latin America as a woman, it's always a challenge, you know, like I've never taken public transportation. I don't dare to walk by myself on the streets. There's a lot of things, right? Like in Taiwan, maybe just the things that have to be improved is just that that thing of welcoming the foreigners from the foreigners' perspective, you know, because we've been having a lot of meetings with the government, with MOPA, with 104, and I know they have the intention to help Taiwanese. They just don't know how to help us, you know, because all the people that's working there are Taiwanese. So whenever we go in a meeting with them, they realize, oh, wow, yeah, we didn't think about it that way, because they're thinking from the Taiwanese side. So if they had more foreigners working at those offices, they could have a different mindset and a different approach of doing things.
Owen, do you agree with Camila with this view? I think, is it a dangerous question?
Of course I agree. I mean,
it's okay, go ahead.
I mean, if I didn't do this business with Camila, I would never see the foreigner side of the business in Taiwan, right? So I get this opportunity to see both lenses as a Taiwanese and as a foreigner. I think, yeah, like she said, like every Taiwanese has a intention to help, but they don't really know how to help. So with me seeing through firsthand of what you guys are going through, I kind of can understand a little bit more. But yeah, it's definitely a long journey to change and to be a lot more inclusive, because I think for right now everything's still within the bubbles. Like, we welcome foreigners, but your foreigners are protected in this bubble. It's kind of hard for you to get out of that zone, or Taiwanese to get in that zone. But they show that resources, the thing they're doing within that bubble. But it's not very because in Canada it's very multicultural, right? I don't think Taiwan is anywhere close to that.
I guess what you're trying to say is if they want to create rules or regulations that would allow embracing foreigners, they should involve foreigners more in the process, right? Especially having someone in the government offices like foreigners to actually be part of the workforce. And I could also think a little bit for the government part in a way that maybe it's difficult for them to implement because getting into the government for a Taiwanese is quite difficult. You need to take a lot of exams because once you are in the government, you are basically employed for the rest of your life and you're guaranteed with extra salaries once you retire. And this will basically shake the offices further. And as you know, we live in a world where governments are only bound by who's sitting. And so they couldn't think further beyond the current administration, for example. I'm not saying any specific administration will always think in this way because if a government wants to, and I'm just speaking for myself, by the way, I'm not involving you two. Any government will always think just for themselves because either they want to run in the next election, so the results have to be shown really fast. Like for example, in the case of Taiwan, within the 4-year term, every rule that needs to be passed are supposed to show immediate results. And your suggestion, I guess, is something that will never show a result within the 4-year period, even 8-year period, because it would take time. Anyway, that's just my side comment. TwoTemmie is an alumnus of AppWorks, and congratulations for that. It's not an easy task. I know a lot of startup founders who tried but failed, but they're really smart as well, smart people. So could you give us a background of how you got in and what is it like once you're in AppWorks?
Okay, I think AppWorks is they don't really care much about the startup itself. Like if you are like an expert in what you're doing, they really care about the founders, I would say. Like I remember like during our interview, they asked very, very little about our startup and about TUTEEMI. They asked a lot about ourselves. So I like to think that they have a very long-term vision, and they can see like, okay, are these founders like have the mentality and the passion that it takes to build a startup, right? Because we've met so many founders in AppWorks, and now they're like very successful, but the first startup that they were doing in AppWorks is actually gone. This is probably the third one, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why during the interview they don't really ask about the project you're working on. It's more about your long-term goals and your values, your mission, your vision, like all of this. So they judge you more for the person you are than the project you're working on. That's at least what I felt.
I guess I can give a little advice for if there's any startup wants to apply to AppWorks is go to more networking events. I think we got in because we encountered with some of the AppWorks founders, alumni, and we get to talk to them in person. We actually kind of ask what is AppWorks about, and then we actually talked to a few other analysts. Or the staff of AppWorks. I think building that kind of human connection maybe put us in a better position, I would say. But I just think as a startup, you just have to build a lot of connection and human interaction. If you just stand behind the desktop and then you just apply for it, maybe it would not be that high of a chance.
I know one of the benefits for being part of AppWorks is the vast amount of connections that they have to further help startups do what they're currently doing. My question is, have you ever like worked directly with the founder, Jamie, or how is it working with him, for example?
I think Jamie has given us a couple of workshops and a couple of chats that are actually very inspiring. We really admire him as a founder and the process that AppWorks have been, right? Like through, because it's been a 10-year startup for him, right? He describes AppWorks as like one of his startups, and it's just very inspiring to see his founder's journey. So, so I think it's amazing to have a person like him behind AppWorks. Yeah.
It seems that your business for now is. Oh, sorry. Are you adding something?
No. Please go ahead.
So yeah, I was saying it's for now I can see that your business is currently focused on face-to-face tutorial, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. How are you trying to shape this venture to cater online learning? And as you've seen, there's this is basically the hype right now that we have since we have the COVID-19.
I think we definitely we're always open-minded to the online tutoring, but we know online tutoring sometimes is quite saturated for this. A lot of companies are doing it, and then we personally are more of a old school mindset people that when it comes to learning a language or talking to people, we like face to face. So we think it's very important to have an offline presence. And then maybe in the future, once we have this more of a reputation and the company grows a little bit more, then we can open up a new market of online. So it would be an OMO kind of model for our company. So I think it's very important to keep this offline thing. I understand everybody COVID go to online, but once everybody's online, who is doing offline?
Makes sense. Camila?
I think like from the very beginning we were against online teaching, and we were like, no, don't talk to us about online teaching, whatever. But the more we are in this founder's journey, the more we realize that we're always open to pivoting and to learning new things. Like we're not in love with our idea that is like, oh my god, it has to be TUTEEMI for the next 30 years of our life. Like it could be TUTEEMI for 1 more year, 2 more years, and then change to something else. Like I think the key is just to know what your mission is, and for us at the moment is to connect foreigners and Taiwanese. It doesn't matter how, if it's through languages, if it's through events, if it's through job fairs, like whatever it is, like we're just trying to connect the dots.
Okay, so let's have this fast round. One more question after this, but let's do a fast round. I'm sure you've seen my YouTube episodes. I just ask basic questions. All you need to do is give me your first thing that comes to your mind. And this is a few. Ready? What is your daily breakfast?
We don't have breakfast.
Coffee.
Alright, so what show are you currently watching on Netflix?
The Innocent.
The Innocent, okay. Are you a morning or night person?
Morning.
No, night. Oh
Alright.
my god, that's a lie. That's a lie.
Trying to be.
Trying to be, okay.
We've tried to be morning team for a while. We were like waking up at 5 in the morning and going for a run and stuff, but it lasted for 3 weeks.
Well, 3
Not too
weeks is a
long.
good run. 3 weeks is a good run. Android or iOS?
iOS.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Favorite game if you play games?
You're what?
Favorite game or games if you play
Yeah,
games?
we don't play games. We like playing board games.
Passphrase.
Board games. We like playing board games, but not video games.
You are the second and third persons who mentioned about playing board games as opposed to playing computer games. So yeah, it's okay. And what board game is your favorite?
Catchphrase.
And taboo.
Catch,
Taboo.
taboo catchphrase. Favorite movie of all time?
Inception.
Camila,
That's
is
for me.
that also your favorite?
I don't have one. I don't really like watching movies, so I don't have one.
What about favorite books? Favorite book?
Ooh.
The Kite Runner.
The Kite Runner.
Oh, that's so hard. I don't know. I'm currently reading Edge, and I like it a lot. Edge, I would say. I'm almost done with it, but I think it helps a lot of founders like myself that are like Latina and trying to find an edge in Asia. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let me know your action items. How can we, like us and our audience, help TUTEEMI, and what are your plans?
TUTEEMI. Helping TUTEEMI, I think, is just slowly trying to change the mindset of language learning. That language learning is supposed to be for communicating. That not only native English speakers can teach English or a specific language. That's why all of our tutors have to be bilingual. And then yeah, just be more inclusive and try to always help and give back. That's all we ask for. I think.
Sure.
For me, I think everybody should practice to become a global citizen. That's what I love to say. I think the world is connecting so close, like because the flight and everything, everybody connects, the internet. So you are your own country's ambassador. So be a better global citizen.
Wow, that's I don't think there's a better way to end this program with that nice words from Owen, and I could learn from that as well, like being a good representative of your country wherever you are in the world. So thank you, Camila and Owen, for your time, and that's all the time that we have for now. If you guys want to know more about TwoTemmie, I'll put the link in the description below. And if you guys want to get to know more about Camila and Owen, I'll also try to share some of their maybe I shouldn't be sharing your social profiles, but obviously you could find them on LinkedIn if you want to connect with them. Until now, have a good day.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.